Yeah, hi, I'm Katherine Thomas. So I run Katherine Thomas Consulting. I advise law firms on establishing new products and services, creating them, speaking to the market, creating them, and then wrapping them up and marketing and selling them. In my previous life, I founded and led Vario, which is a flexible resourcing hub for the law firm Pinsent Masons.
Wow. So you obviously, so some of the people here would be a bit naive to some of what's talked about. So from the perspective of a more experienced attendee, what are you finding is the most interesting stuff?
So I've come here today very much with a human being hat on. So I'm going to leave the detailed tech to other bigger brains. My interest is around the impact that AI is going to have on the human beings that work within the law, the way it's going to affect the skills that they need to bring to work, the way it's going to affect the way they work, where they work, how they work, what they do. So very much I'm interested in the interaction between the humans and all forms of technology that create efficiencies.
So what are some insights that you have for us in that sort of space? Well, what is the relationship going to look like, do you think, between tech and humans, and maybe what does it look like right now?
Yeah, and we've talked a bit about this morning, but to me it seems that the really interesting part of a lawyer's role around exercising judgment, using their empathy and then applying that to exercise judgment and provide solutions that clients can comprehend and implement. That's really where the lawyer's skill set's going to be. And what's really exciting is the kind of technology that we're talking about today is going to take away the much more mundane area of work that lawyers traditionally have been involved in. So I'm really excited by that, but I'm also really interested in how that's going to affect the type of people that look to enter the law, the way that law firms and other legal services providers recruit and the skills that they recruit for, and then how they develop those skills as well.
This is more of a comment, and you can just ignore it or reflect on it. But I feel that actually, as more of the practical side of the lawyer's role gets not just automated but sort of overtaken by highly capable machines.
Yeah.
That in fact the focus will be back on the sort of abstract side of what law is, and the philosophy of law and the theory of law, and in fact trying to grapple with those elements that are practically unreachable in terms of today's technology.
Yeah.
Would you say therefore that law schools should be maybe less practical, or how do you feel about what they should be doing to prepare students for that reality?
It's really interesting, isn't it? And no one has the answer to this question as to how we educate the lawyers and educate and train the lawyers of the future. Something that occurred to me today that I hadn't thought about before, as the speakers were up and sharing their thoughts, was actually who is going to develop the skills of the junior lawyer through understanding the mechanics of arriving at a solution. So in the same way that our children still do maths using a pen and paper and then use a calculator when they enter the real world, the big question that lots of people are asking is how are junior lawyers going to experience the mechanics of the law and the stuff that lies behind the technology to have a deep understanding of the reasons why the technology has arrived at the solution that it brings. And it did occur to me that potentially there's a role for the universities to provide that very deep learning, and then for the law firms to be providing the learning in terms of the application of that knowledge. There's a lot of discussion about what the law firms should be doing, what the universities should be doing. Nobody's got the answer. It's also very much around the question of whether law is an academic discipline or a vocational degree, or indeed whether it can be both. But it just occurred to me today that potentially I think there's a role for law schools to provide that really deep learning, and then for the employers to show those junior lawyers how they can apply that deep learning in a much more practical kind of business-like way.
Yeah, I actually really agree with you.
Yeah.
And I also think there's sort of contradictions in the way we think about technology at the moment, because on one hand it's all well and good that you can use tools to remote learn, for example, at a law school. but that's precisely that's precisely forgetting the kinds of skills in terms of in-person collaboration that you'd wish to draw upon in order to safeguard their careers in a technology-driven marketplace.
Yeah.
So it's like, how do you actually maybe limit some of the irrational exuberance for implementing technology at all levels to properly prepare the student for the future? And I actually think it's by going back to in-person tutorials, compulsory attendance, collaboration, actually taking them away from the workplace and as you say, doing that deep learning in social settings. Not just doing everything online and working full-time while you study full-time.
Well, absolutely, because like this kind of technology that we're talking about today in this kind of conference, like it's going to be like using a pen and paper, right? Like in the future, at some point, this kind of technology, in the same way email is just a hygiene factor in law firms and it is like using pen and paper, so an awful lot of certainly the more basic tech that we've been looking at today will just become a tool, one of a number of tools, and as I say, a hygiene factor, something that you just expect to have, that's kind of, it's agnostic. It's a tool that you can apply in a whole variety of different ways, and the law is then one of the ways in which you apply it. So I couldn't agree with you more that actually in some ways we're coming a bit full circle. We're talking about lawyers as more general business consultants rather than being really specialists in areas of law, and that was very much the way that lawyers operated 30-40 years ago. Now we're talking about lawyers having deep legal knowledge and then using tools to apply that knowledge. Again, perhaps we're kind of returning in some respects back to some fundamentals and seeing the kind of technology that we talk about today as an agnostic tool that you just use to deliver the right result for your clients.
Yeah, I find that really interesting, and just so that Proletary has some more corporate stuff here. What do you? So what are you in terms of the the business end of law? Moving away from sort of discussion of education.
Yeah.
Where do you see clients benefiting from some of what is being talked about today?
I don't see clients benefiting much at all at the moment, and indeed, with some of the work that I do. And speaking to clients of my clients, that's a message that I am hearing loud and clear from the market. I think that our clients are pretty frustrated at the moment because generally speaking they feel that they're hearing a lot about AI and disruption and efficiencies, but they don't experience the benefit of that. And that's, my perception is that in a lot of cases that's causing quite a large degree of frustration, because clients are working out that law firms are becoming more efficient. But if they're not passing those efficiencies on to their clients in demonstrably, and not just actually in terms of the fees, but if there isn't some demonstrable way in terms of greater efficiency, greater speed, lower cost, higher level of accuracy, if clients aren't seeing that, then who's benefiting from this? It's only the law firm. And I worry about law firms that aren't passing the benefits on to their clients, because those are the ones that really, really will realise that kind of doomsday scenario and really will become obsolete, because it's the savvy law firms and the newcomers and the so-called new law that are realising that the reason for doing this is so that you can provide better service to your clients, and your clients need to feel that and be able to perceive it as well. I don't know whether that's what you're sort of hearing in the market as well.
Yeah, I find that really interesting. I mean, that's an insight that I wouldn't necessarily have access to, given where I am in terms of the. I mean, I'm a paralegal and a student, but but I find that to be logically so compelling that it's all well and good to just hoard that benefit and just increase your profit margin as a law firm without passing on those costs. I'd never really heard it described like that. I think that's really interesting.
Well, if you wait till the moment that clients are demanding it because they're so cheesed off with the situation, you've waited too long. Competitively, you're behind.
Do you think, maybe finally, do you think that there was one speaker that stood out for you today? And maybe why, or?
Yeah, I've loved them all. I think they're all brilliant. I really like Karen because I loved the fact that she talked about AI in practice and the realities of the situation, and the fact that it's quite often 2 steps forward and 1 step back. I love the fact that she acknowledged that there is I can't remember what she called it, like an efficiency trough, in terms of, often when you apply these solutions to start with, you don't get any benefit. In fact, you become more you become less efficient while you're trying to, learn the technology and understand how to make best use of it, and you've got to bear with that to kind of come out the other end. So I just loved her, I guess, her pragmatism, and the fact that she was very able to bring examples to bear and show how G&T are using AI in practice.